All righty. Grendelson, tonight's the night. Tonight is the night we finally make it to Generation X.
Yeah, and then we get to mess with the boomers too.
Yeah, we have to mess with the boomers first. Hey, you guys, how's it going? My name is Natalie. This is my so-called Gen X life, and this is my so-called book club. On Tuesday nights, we are reading Generations by William Strauss and Neil Howe, and we're going through it chapter by chapter, page by page, and learning a lot about American history, the different generations since the founding of the country, and what it means for the future of our country. Super excited tonight because tonight we're getting into chapter 11, which is the Millennial Cycle, Boomers and Gen X, and Millennials. Hello, Grendelson. How's it going?
It goes.
It goes. That's what I always say. Hello, Dale. Hello, Little Joe the Moonlight Cat. Hello, Kitea. How's it going? This is going to be a really great discussion, and I'm really excited about it. I was telling you before we started that I don't plan on speed racing through this. We're gonna take our time like we want to, and really have some fun with this, because I really was surprised by a lot of the things that I've read, and I'll explain to you as we go why. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about boomers and my own generation. With this book. Now, for those of you that are new here that haven't been with us every week, this book is Generations by William Strauss and Neil Howe. Let me get it to the camera there. The History of America's Future, 1584 to 2069. This book was written in 1991, and both authors are baby boomers. I believe they're first wave baby boomers, so 40s babies, early 50s babies, I think, if I'm correct. William Strauss has already sadly passed away. Neil Howe is still alive and still writing all about these topics on his Substack. So we are now in week 9. The first 8 weeks, we have gone through all of the previous generations in the United States from the colonial days up until the late 19th or late 20th century, late 1900s, late 20th century. So that's where we're at now. Tonight, we're talking about boomers and Gen X. I'm so excited. Oh, we got more joining us. We got Crewstam01. Hello. Glad Grado. I can't. We'll call Southern. Yeah. Rachel, hello. So this is going to be a really, really fun night. I'm really looking forward to this.
Remember, if you don't have a copy of the book, you can get it at the Internet Archive.
Yes,
it's available for PDF there, and you can.
Yep, just like it looks on the screen there. It's a really great. I really like how they have it set up. It's really easy to read and get through, and it's pretty cool, and it's free. Yes, I'm wearing my Dare T-shirt tonight. Yay! Having if we're talking about the '80s, I gotta have something. I almost went with MTV, but instead I went with Dare since it was more my people.
Get an MTV T-shirt. I am the MTV generation.
Yes, you are.
We called us before we were Generation X, by the way. We were the MTV generation. But
that was one of the earliest names. As we'll see in this book here, our generation did not have an official name in 1991 when this book was published. Oh, Nick Cody is here. Gonna be silent. Ooh, I find that hard to believe. I'd love to have your.
We're all friends here. Everybody's opinion is valid, and there's no judging. Okay,
this is just a discussion. This is just a straight up discussion.
This is supposed to be fun, so let's keep it fun. And to be fun, we want to have fun.
And it's going to get even more fun in the coming weeks because we're getting into now times and then the projections of into the future. And that's, I think, at least that's what I'm really here for. I don't know about y'all. The history is fun, but
I don't want to, I'm just worried about the predictions.
Well, there's a couple of things now. Yeah. A couple of things before we get into the boomer chapter here, or the boomer section, is one thing I noticed as we're going to go through some of their notable people that they put in the book here one thing I noticed was all of the politicians that they mentioned, or the notable people in the boomer generation. This was 1 year before Bill Clinton was elected president, and there is not one mention of Bill or Hillary Clinton in their list of any kind of influential boomer politicians, which I found very interesting. That they were so far from the national stage up until 92 that they weren't even mentioned in a book like this. But at the same time, Joe Biden was mentioned in the Silent Generation chapter. He was, remember, he was, because they mentioned his plagiarism scandal,
right?
And
but he had run for president. He
had. That's what I'm saying. He was known. He was known. And then Donald Trump was also mentioned in here as well. So I found that very interesting that Clinton was so far removed from the national political conversation that he wasn't even mentioned in here a year before he was elected president. So
he was even compared to Jimmy Carter quite often, as I recall.
Yeah,
because he came from the South, and he came out of basically nowhere. He was a governor. And all of a sudden he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna be the next president." Yeah.
Now, have you ever seen the movie American Made starring Tom Cruise? It came out about 10 years ago, and it's a true story. It's a true story about this CIA operative who was flying planes into South America to smuggle drugs into the country, and he would drop them in Arkansas in the 80s and Clinton is in the movie. So like all throughout the 80s, Clinton was allowing drug drops in the middle of his state and letting all of that stuff fly through. And then a couple of years later, he's elected president. It's almost like he was installed.
He's probably getting a little taste too.
Yeah.
Listen,
Bill came out of nowhere.
As president, but let's just
if you guys have not seen American Made with Tom Cruise, I highly recommend. We might even watch the trailer for it before the night's over. But anyway, it just that's who Clinton was in the 80s, and then all of a sudden he's president. So I just found it very interesting that he came out of absolutely nowhere.
And I went to the Tonight Show Tom Cruise was on, and he stood 5 feet away from me.
Say what? I can't hear you.
I went to the Tonight Show taping, and Tom Cruise was on, and he stood literally feet away from me.
Oh, nice.
He came up into the crowd and started talking to people.
Oh, fun! He was always such a fun talk show guest back in the 90s.
I don't particularly care for him as a person.
Yeah,
but,
he makes great movies.
He's very charismatic, and he's got a smile that will not quit. And I tell you what, when he's looking at your eyes and he's talking to you, it's like no one else exists.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
He put all of his points in charisma.
Yeah. I think he's one of the last movie stars. Him and Keanu, I think, are probably the last movie stars that we'll ever know. All right. We're getting into the Millennial Cycle. Before we start talking about the baby boomers, we have had... Well, I would argue 3 presidents in this that were born during the baby boom. We have Bill Clinton, obviously born 1946. We have George Bush. I forgot George. Sorry. We have 4. George Bush. Donald Trump was born 1946. Barack Obama was born 1961. I will call him a boomer all day long and twice on Sundays.
He is definitely a boomer.
Yeah, definitely a boomer. So let's get into what I really kind of want to go through what they described the boomer generation starting on page 295 at the bottom of the page. Because so much of this has affected us. And so I don't want to speed run through it. Okay. Starting at the bottom, 295. Grace Slicks, self-absorbed boom generation. Self-absorbed. I like when they just come out and say it right off the jump. Idealist. In the Millennial Cycle, they are the idealist generation, age 29 to 46, including the overwhelmingly majority of the 400,000 youths in their late teens and 20s who had attended the original event. We're talking about Woodstock. The Woodstock generation. My God, did we hear about Woodstock nonstop for the first 20 years of our lives?
Yeah, and listen, my parents yeah. I grew up listening to all that music, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot to. Oh, by the way, Country Joe just passed away last week. Speaking of Woodstock.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I did not hear that.
Yeah. What are we fighting for? I got tired of hearing about Woodstock. I really, really did. But then again, as I got older, I was like, Woodstock seemed like it was kind of cool. And, and then we had all of our versions of it, which that's a whole other.
Woodstock 99 was an event. Oh, Lordy.
So, yeah, and the Woodstock.
We heard nothing. It was 60s culture, boomer culture was everywhere in the 80s.
Yeah. And everywhere. It wouldn't stop and they wouldn't go away.
It would not. It would not go away.
It still hasn't.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
So they had thousands in their teens and 20s who had attended the original event, plus uncounted millions of others who had partaken in the festivals, be-ins, teach-ins, strikes, and assorted other youth gatherings of the Woodstock era. Other notable events of the boomer coming of age years, the Chicago Convention riot, People's Park, Altamont, Kent State, had been deadlier and were remembered more soberly, if at all. By now, boomers were busy trying to keep their own children from replaying their own youthful exuberances. When the original silent production of Hair had stripped a boomer cast of clothes, a 20th anniversary boomer reissue stripped the musical of offensive lyrics, turning a song entitled Sodomy into a saxophone solo. I remember that. Boomers remain just as ethics absorbed as always, but Woodstock's new age heirs now had to share the generational spotlight with their slightly younger evangelical peers who had glimpsed the original rock concert as grade school or high school students. Hey, they're talking about Gen X.
Yeah, and isn't that great too? The boomers are like, well, wait a second, we were wild and everything, and well, we can't let our kids be that.
We can't let our kids do that.
I had the Hair thing highlighted as well. I love Hair. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just boggles my mind that the boomers who were the ones who were on stage getting stripped in the original are now going, oh no, we don't want to
censor it. They censored it in the revival. They sure did.
They were also talking about early Gen Xers. No.
Oh, I guess they are talking about the late wave boomers. You're right. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, that too.
I'm sorry. The next section is when we talk into the 13th. All right. Wherever boomers rented old Woodstock videos to celebrate the occasion, the punkish part-timers behind the checkout counter probably belonged to the 13th generation, reactive, age 8 to 28. For the most part, these $6 an hour youths kept their mouths shut while overhearing 40-year-olds revel in their culture and exude an air of having defined forever what every person should be around age 20. To these kids, rehashing Woodstock was a waste of time. Just look at the mess it left behind. For example, the drug-related deaths of 7 festival performers and who knows how many thousands of participants over the ensuing 2 decades. But never having known anything remotely like Woodstock themselves, they were also aware of the possible boomer comeback. Okay, so what did you guys ever do together? Invade Grenada? Go wilding? Watch the Challenger explosion? I couldn't, that's what was that what adults were saying to us back then?
Kinda.
I guess so.
What were you guys doing?
And they wondered themselves. That's right. What did you guys do?
Yeah.
A few 13ers revealed a rising alienation in their letter to the editor reactions to boomer commemoratives, like John Cunningham, whose attitude was Woodstock blech, and Jeffrey Huga, who pointedly told boomers the 60s are history that the rest of us don't need repeated and crammed down our throats. Hugovin's peers had been the forgotten toddlers of the Woodstock era, kids who by now were old enough to check out such hippie-ish videos as Easy Rider and Hair, and who, like the Wonder Years' Olivia Dabo, knew how to imitate or avoid boomerisms whichever came in handy. I like how, and we're going to get into it later, that the Gen X were really the kids of the 60s, the babies of the 60s, the first wave Gen X. So yeah, it's interesting what they say Gen X's perspective was of the boomers, and it was definitely there, because like we just said, Woodstock crap was everywhere.
And not only was it Woodstock crap, it was like everything 60s was popular as we were growing up. I never heard the end of the 60s.
Right.
Ever. I always was like, the 60s must have been the greatest time in the entire life, you know?
Yeah.
You had all the best music, all the best drugs, all the best sex. You
know, anytime I see like right now, there's been so much hardcore 80s and 90s nostalgia online lately. Yeah. I wonder if the kids see that, like, the way we viewed the boomers always talking about the damn 60s. Do they think about that with us? Why do you always talk about the damn 90s?
They do. I think they do. I definitely think that they feel that way about the 90s, because I've definitely felt some backlash.
Yeah.
You know, when I kind of look back at the 90s with rose-colored glasses, but of course, I mean, it's when you're in your 20s, and
right. You know, it was a good time. Life was good.
My 20s was the 90s. I was
my high school and college years was the 90s. Yeah, it was great.
1990, and I was 29 years old in 2000.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I perfectly got that whole decade of my 20s, and yeah, I loved it. Would I go back? No, but
well, it was the conditions that made conditions that made youth be pretty cool. Even though there was things that were happening, don't get me wrong, but like you could get a job making, $7-8 an hour and rent an apartment with your couple of friends, and you could get a burger for 50 cents or a taco for 39 cents, and you can get a gallon of gas for $1. You could live life and enjoy things as a young person without having a shit ton of money. But at the same time, there were things that were going on that were getting progressively worse, like the economy was getting worse and the job prospects and market. But still, overall,
I mean, I think
it was a fun time to be a young person.
I think for the most part, the economy between, let's say, 93 and 98 was pretty good. And, throughout especially if you were in like I was in the middle of the internet boom. And I mean, I saw people get laid off because of the .com bubble.
Right.
And in fact, my own, we went in a different direction, but yeah, I mean, the .com burst had an effect on a lot of us. So, but even that, there were some really good times during the 80s or during the 90s as far as economics wise.
Right. It was right before all the, there was a lot of change going on, but it was still, the dollar was strong enough to where you didn't have to make a shit ton of money to be able to live life, You didn't. And it was a good time. It was a good time.
It's funny that they mentioned $6 an hour, because I'm like, what's the minimum wage still now?
$7.25 or $7.50 or something like that in federal, but states have way higher wages. Back in 1969, Boomer festivals had celebrated themselves. 20 years later, their midsummer outings invariably featured the budding millennial generation, civic, age 7 and under at the time of this book's publishing, where many a boomer had hitchhiked to Woodstock, taking rides from goodness knows whom and ingesting goodness knows what when they got there. No doubt feeding a few 13er babies some mind-expanding leftovers. Their tots traveled there. Oops.
The meaningless one. That one's kind of useless.
Oh, crap. I didn't mean to do that. I just messed up. I just messed up. Oh, no. I'll get back. Crap. There's my page. There we go. Oh, in 1999, I'm gonna learn this, I swear. Strapped, oh, here we're talking about millennials, strapped into super safe infant car seats and munching the most wholesome snacks their parents could buy. Already, parents deem these children special and worth protecting. The eldest had just finished first grade, exposed at home and school to a values laced list of do's and don'ts, unlike anything most 13ers had ever heard. Parents and teachers were carefully recrafting the child's world so this next generation would never go near the dangerous drugs and sex environment of the 1970s. Watching those hard bitten kids behind the video checkout counter, boom parents redoubled their conviction that their younger tots must never be allowed to grow up like that. No, when these children became old enough to hold summer jobs, they would work in libraries, plant trees, or do something else useful for the community.
I highlighted that part too.
Boomers,
like, oh,
yeah, I know, right? Boomers, 13ers, and millennials are just now beginning to build a generational drama that will continue to unwind for decades to come. To date,
I laughed so hard.
I know. To date, 1991, this has been a cycle of relative peace and affluence, mixed with growing individualism, cultural fragmentation, moral zealotry, and a sense of political drift and institutional failure. That is to be expected. A sense that the public world is spinning slowly out of control is normal for a society moving from an awakening to an inner-driven era. The millennial cycle has completed one exuberant and occasionally violent spiritual awakening, but has yet to encounter a secular crisis.
Well, it has now.
It has now. So that's where the timing of it kind of goes off. But
I mean, in 1991, it hadn't happened.
This is still very early in the millennial cycle. This is still boomers are still just in midlife. Gen Xers are rising adulthood. Millennials are kids. So, I mean, they are just in the early stages of what they would call the 80-year seculum of this whole cycle. So, yeah, this was still very early on, but it's interesting to see where they thought that they were, and they were right in some ways. In a lot of ways. But it's interesting to see what they thought the vibe was at the time.
I want to, Kitaya says one thing about the book, it doesn't give much credit to the Cold War.
It doesn't really say much about that.
You're absolutely right. It doesn't. And I think the Cold War had a much higher impact on boomers than it did Gen X. And certainly the Cold War had zero impact on millennials since they didn't even know it happened.
Right. Yeah, they were babies.
To us, I think it's like there's the Cold War relic. And they'll talk about the Cold War's impact, but the impact on the generation really wouldn't happen until the war had been over for a few years. So this book doesn't really delve into it too much because the Cold War had just ended.
Right.
So they didn't really have a whole lot of data to go back and look at. And they didn't know what was going to spin out of the Cold War.
Right. And this book was also, remind you, this book was written before the fall of the Soviet Union, or the Soviet Union was in the process of disintegrating in 91. But the Berlin Wall had fallen. But you're right. It definitely affected boomers more than it affected us. The other thing that they don't really talk about much when it comes to the different generations was immigration policy, which I found very interesting because from like the 20s to the 60s, there was basically no immigration in the United States. It was very restrictive. And then they opened it up in 1965 with the Hart-Celler Act, which changed demographics as we get through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I think that's important when it comes to when you're looking at sociology and how things change and how moods change and when you have your population changing like that. I think it's at least something to consider when we're talking about the different generations.
And if you can get even more granular, because that second wave of immigration was from completely different countries.
Right.
Mostly Southeast Asia.
Right.
On a level that had never been seen in this country and had a huge impact.
Right, definitely. And then throughout the 80s we had the rise in the migration from South America, from Mexico, from Central America as well. So that definitely changed a lot of things. Like, so like my point is that during the GI and silent and then the beginning of the boomers' lives, our borders were effectively closed. So it was Americans doing American things. And, and then that changed in 1965 when they opened up the borders. So, and that definitely affected Generation X and moving forward. They even they mentioned it a little bit when they get to us, but, talking about how we had Asian American valedictorians in our classes, so they did kind of go there a little bit, but we'll get there. But yeah, so yeah, there was high immigration into the 1920s, and then from the early 1920s until 1965, there was essentially like none. I mean, it was very, very minimal. So, anywho's, let's see. So we can look really fast at the let me pull out a little bit on this one. The figure on page 297, so we can see where
question mark.
Yeah. Gen Z's just a glimmer in our eyes, guys. Just a twinkle in the eyes.
And they already have a fucking name.
I know, right? Millennial. Well, that's one thing for those of you that don't know, is that Strauss and Howe actually did name that generation millennials with this book. Before that, I don't even know that they were even a thought. But yeah, they called us 13ers, gave us a number, and then they loved millennials because the first millennial would graduate high school in 2000. That was their reason for the name. But also they're known as Gen Y. Gen Y was also a description of them for a while, and I think some people still use it. But yeah, so there's where we're at. We had our spiritual awakening back when the boomers were growing up and the 13ers were kiddos and the millennials weren't born yet. So the millennials weren't around for the spiritual awakening of the 60s and 70s, and we were the kids. Okie doke.
I remember the early 70s.
Yeah, see, I don't. And obviously I was born in 77, and when we get into the Generation X part of the chapter, we're definitely going to talk about the differences between first wave and second wave, as they would call it here, or the cuspers and the core.
I mean, I'll say this: my memories of the 70s, for the most part, are not pleasant.
Yeah.
In terms of how the country was feeling, how people were feeling, and how society was going up until, I mean, really seriously, there wasn't a whole lot to be happy about.
Well, and I definitely got that sense from this book.
Yeah. People got to see movies and blockbusters, and then, Reagan came in and cleaned house, and, everybody was happy for the next decade. But I remember, especially the early 70s, just everybody hating everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And it was rough. It was rough growing up in that time period. I'd say that.
That sucks. Well, and then you're also being completely ignored. Because it was all about the boomers. It was all about and silent as well, but mostly the boomers. Like everything, they were causing a lot of problems. The 70s was a very violent decade. I don't think people realize how much violence was really going on college campuses and in different places. There was a lot of domestic terrorism in the 70s. There was a lot of it was quite the decade. It looks very dirty in film and video, by the way. It just looks like a dirty, grungy decade.
Yeah, there was a reason for that.
Yeah. Yes, there is. Boomers, 1943 to 1960, according to Strauss and Howe. The idealists, their age, location, and history, they were in a boom awakening during their rising adulthood. Page 299. Let's get over here. Oh, that's 298. Maybe I should turn the page. I put so much pressure on myself to like do everything so perfectly. All right.
Nah, don't worry about it.
I know. I'm hard on myself. Anarchist heaven on earth. Redemption worth fighting for. That's how Todd Gitlin described People's Park, an oblong 3-acre patch that Cal Berkeley's GI Regents cleared in 1969 so they could put up a new student facility. The kids wanted to keep it a mixture of garden and hangout, a shrine to their budding consciousness. In the ensuing melee, the Regents won the battle, but the young rioters won the war. Nothing was built. A year earlier, Columbia students had rebelled against a similar plan to erect a big gymnasium. There too, nothing was built. You build it up, mother, we gonna tear it down, was Jacob Brackman's motto for the boomer generation. Then triggering America's most furious and violent youth upheaval of the 20th century. After noticing the powerful inner life underlying the youth anger at Harvard, Eric Erickson remarked that he saw more of a search of resacralization in the younger than the older generation. Afterward, to the surprise of many, the boomer rage cooled. By the mid-'80s, People's Park had become infested with crime and social debris, while a nearby bakery sold $15 tarts iced with message victory to the Sandinistas. The generation that came of age like Brackman, deriding banality, irrelevance, and all the uglinesses which conspire to dwarf or extinguish the human personality, seemingly lay exposed as having gone from j'accuse to jacuzzi. In 1989, Berkeley's 40-ish homeowners began forming neighborhood associations for the purpose of pushing alcoholics, drug dealers, and wingnuts out of their parks, out of their lives. Now it appears this generation is going from jacuzzi to cold shower. So let's talk about that for a minute.
I love that. By the way, Berkeley is too liberal for me.
Yeah, they are on their own planet.
I knew that I'll tell you the moment I knew that Berkeley was just nutso. When they had a city referendum to vote to mandate that the coffee be fair trade coffee in all of Berkeley. They couldn't sell coffee unless it was fair trade.
Oh my God.
You had to vote for that? Really? Really? Okay, that's gone a little too PC. Okay, what I'm saying here?
Yeah, they really got they really went all in on the political correctness and the all the green stuff and but they did it in a way through institutional power. Like they became the man. It's like weird.
They went corporate route. That's why you have the rise of Whole Foods, Sprouts, Erewhons.
Right.
That started to happen when? In the 80s, when the boomers started to go grocery shopping. and boomers didn't want to cut coupons, so we don't got coupons no more,
This was also the time where globalism started. Like our economy opened up and we started moving manufacturing overseas, and we started importing all kinds of stuff from all around the world, and which definitely also made a big mark on the economy.
Because boomers didn't want to work in a factory.
No.
Factory. My father, the boomer, 1947 born, told me as a young lad that if I worked with my hands, I was doing my brain a disservice.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And I'm like, and he's like, you got a big brain. You can use it. Like, you shouldn't have to work with your hands. I'm like, okay. Who says that? Who tells their shit? I would never. Hard work is a thing,
Yeah. And working with your hands and having a skill of any kind.
Yeah, no doubt. But I grew up
valuable.
I grew up hearing that.
Yeah.
And taking it to heart. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah. That's the worst advice ever.
I did get a job that was mostly manual labor for me. I did it too late in life, so it hurt me too much. But I learned a whole new respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A whole new respect for people who work with their hands. And, there should be, I grew up with shame, and, I don't know. I don't think that was right. So,
yeah.
No, a lot of boomers instilled in their children.
Yeah, they did. And it's like they grew up and decided that all the things that we did growing up, we don't want you guys to do that.
Absolutely.
So we're going to put rules and laws in place to where you don't get to do that. And if you try to do that, we're going to punish the bejesus out of you.
Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't have sex.
Right.
Have sex. Okay, well, then we're going to invent this really wonderful disease for you.
Yeah.
And then drugs. Oh, our drugs were fine. Now we're going to have drugs that kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wow. It's like, thanks, mom and dad. So it's just they're just a really weird generation. Like there was so much wealth built in that generation, and so much wealth put into that generation.
Yeah.
That it's just interesting their trajectory of how things went. And I wonder how different it would have been if George Bush would have won or Ross Perot would have won the 92 election instead of Bill Clinton. I wonder how different their influence on our society would have been if Clinton would not have won the election. But they did.
I don't know. I don't. As I do recall that election, and that was like my first, because I turned 18 in 99.
No, 89.
89. Sorry, 89. Yeah. I turned 18 in 89, so I wasn't eligible to vote in the 88 election.
Right.
So 92 was my first presidential election, and I followed it really, really closely.
So did I. Yeah, that's the first one I paid attention to. I couldn't vote in it, but that was the first one I really paid attention to. I've always been a political person, so
my recollection though was that Perot really didn't have much of a chance. He siphoned away more votes from Bush than he did from Clinton.
Possibly, but I think it was he really.
No, he wouldn't have won.
He wouldn't have won.
No,
I mean, pulling 20% of the popular vote as a third-party candidate on a national scale is pretty impressive.
It's pretty big, but again, it's not big enough to get those electoral college votes. And that's
no. But I think what it says, I think it definitely, because they talk about it here in the book about there was a split between the boomers. You had basically from your left to your right, you had a major split in the generation. And I think his candidacy and his being able to get that much of the popular vote showed that split in the boomer generation, that, that they weren't all on the same page, I guess you would say, and there was a very myriad of political views among the boomer generation. That was very different from their GI parents. Howard Dean was 2003. The Dean Scream, 2003, 2004. It was the 2004 election, but the Dean Scream came in late 2003. I remember it well.
I don't remember squat.
What?
That was the year I got married, so I don't really.
Oh, I don't remember much about that year. That was a very the 2004 election is a really weird election.
2003, 2004 is pretty much a blur to me right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some famous boomers.
Do we have to?
We'll go through pretty quick here.
No. It's funny. Actually, I even Googled who the current famous boomers are, and it's all the same.
All the same people.
Yeah.
We Oliver North from the Iran Contra scandal. Yep. Janis Joplin, Joe Namath, Angela Davis just died.
Oh, did she?
I think so.
No, I don't think so. No,
or it might be somebody else.
She was just in the news. Angela Davis is a UCLA person, so I
Okay.
kind of.
My bad. She's 82. There's somebody else that passed away that was in her group of people. I can't think of who it was. Anyways, not a big deal. Steve Martin, one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yes, David Stockman. Do you know who David Stockman is? Because I was not sure who that was.
Let's look him up. I will look him up. You can keep going.
Okay. Look him up. Donald Trump, current president of the United States. Gilda Radner, God bless, rest her soul.
David Stockman was a former U.S. representative.
Oh, okay.
And
I just find it very interesting. The boomer politicians of the 80s were nowhere near power in the 90s when the boomers took over. Like, it was a whole new group of people that nobody had ever heard of.
Yeah, he's a Republican, but he doesn't really like Trump, apparently.
Is he so he's still alive?
He is 79 years old, and he writes
79.
Yeah. He wrote a book in 2016 called Trump, A Nation on the Brink of Ruin.
Oh.
And how
there was a lot of never Trumpers in the Republican Party back then.
Called Peak Trump in 2019, The Undrainable. And the Fantasy of MAGA. I don't think he likes Trump.
Oh no! Letterman, Jerry Mathers, Jane Pauley, Lee Atwater, Oprah Winfrey, Patty Hearst, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Spike Lee, John McEnroe. Political leaders. That's what I was talking about earlier. How there's no mention of a Clinton anywhere. Bill Bradley, Bill Bennett. Gore. Yep, Gore's in there. Dan Quayle, of course, is in there. That he would have been the vice president at the time. And then foreign peers. I didn't know who Walesa. I'm not sure that was.
He was the Polish Solidarity guy. He was the union leader who became president.
Gotcha. Boy, I would have not known. I would have not. I recalled that if you wouldn't have done that. So thank you.
Of course, Mick Jagger.
Huh?
I think he won the Nobel Prize.
Gotcha. Mick Jagger, Daniel Ortega, King Charles, and Benazir Bhutto. So you went through all of the history and life cycle. If you've read the chapter, it's stuff that I feel like we've all heard about and known our whole life. From Dr. Spock's baby books to TV. TV infiltrates the home during the boomer childhood.
And more importantly, the TV dinner. Thank you.
And more importantly, the TV dinner. Absolutely. We got polio vaccine, Sputnik, Vietnam, Summer of Love, Moon Landing, Woodstock, Kent State, Days of Rage, Earth Day, McGovern, Woodward and Bernstein, Nixon, Watergate, start of Reagan era. First use of the word yuppie. 88, Al Gore runs for president. Dan Quayle elected vice president. So that was their first touch of, or at least their closest they had been to the Oval by that point was Dan Quayle as VP. Yay.
I love how they don't have Star Wars on there for cultural endowments.
I meant Quayle as VP. Sorry. Cultural endowments. What'd you say?
Look at the sample cultural endowments, you know.
Oh, Doonesbury.
Lucas Boomer. Lucas is silent. That's why.
Yeah, Doonesbury, All the President's Men, Fate of the Earth, Color Purple, Kathy, American Pie, Saturday Night Live, Close Encounters, Strawberry Statement. Yeah, so I guess Lucas is a silent, isn't he?
Yeah, 44.
Wow.
But and I guess so is Coppola too, so he's a little bit older. And I guess Spielberg was the youngest of those guys, so
he was.
It's weird because Lucas to me is definitely a boomer because he
you think of him as a boomer,
but he's born in 44. But I mean, still
kind of a cusper in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess the 46 is the general accepted. Yeah. 43 here. So I don't know. He's a cusper, kind of like Barack Obama and his cuspiness of Boomer and X.
Rock.
Those cuspers. Oh my god. In 1965, we're going to page 301, very top. In 1965, Time magazine declared teenagers to be on the fringe of a golden era. And 2 years later described collegians as cheerful builders who would lay out blight-proof, smog-free cities, enrich the underdeveloped world, and no doubt write fetus to poverty and war. Hardly. Like, who are these people?
Well, they said the same thing about millennials too.
Yeah. As those sunny prophecies collapsed one by one, boomers next heard themselves collectively touted as a surly political powerhouse, easily capable of sweeping candidates of their choice to the White House. Not so. Starting with George McGovern in 1972, the boom has played the role of political siren, first tempting candidates, then luring them to their demise.
Yes. Meanwhile, this is where, the history is important, but
this is where it gets very dated.
Yeah, it gets really dated because it didn't end up being this way.
Right.
So for right now.
Yeah.
For right now, they're like, they haven't done much. Okay, they will.
All right. They're getting ready to.
Yeah.
Just
wait.
Here we go. From VJ Day forward, whatever age bracket boomers have occupied has been the cultural and spiritual focal point for American society as a whole. From VJ Day forward to today, which is wild because they're all going to be dead in the next 10 years. But they're still occupying, they're the focal point for American society, which is wild. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Our whole lives.
I have to promise my mom we won't bash on boomers too much.
I'm not trying to bash on them too much because
not either, but it's hard not to.
They inherited the
greatest country in the world.
Yes.
They had the greatest childhoods in the world. They had the best young adulthoods in the world. And then they decided they didn't want to give it up. And so they and then they played the rest of us against each other, because they're smart. And wait, why? Because they realized if they all team up against us, we're outnumbered 3-1 now at this point.
Right.
We better make them happy. And let me tell you, boomers now are really starting to make people happy. I've seen it. They're like, oh, maybe we're boomers now, but we're grandpas of everybody, so we're going to be happy. We're
in the middle of a crisis. I don't know if you know that or not. And y'all have had 70 years to, put your money away, invest your money, buy your houses, go to your fund all your vacations. So now you're all just sitting there being like, I don't know what all you all sitting there being like, we don't want you to have any of it. We're going to hold on to it and you're going to pry it away from us in our graves.
It's my turn to drive. No, Gen X dad doesn't even get a turn to drive. Okay.
Yeah.
That over. And Gen Z dad is like, I'm not going to have kids and I'm not going to drive. I'm not having any sex.
Right.
Baby boomer bashing. Yeah.
I don't want to do too much.
No.
But I do want to read this.
Boomers, they're our parents. Come on.
Yeah, we love them.
I do love them.
Through their childhood, America was child obsessed. In their youth obsessed. In their yuppie phase, yuppie obsessed. Always.
In their older adult phase.
Yeah. They're still obsessed. Always the boomer. Always, the boom has been not just a new generation, but what Brackman has termed a new notion of generation with new notions of its imperatives. Arriving as the inheritors of GI triumph, boomers have always seen their mission not as constructing a society, but of justifying, purifying, even sanctifying it. I thought that was a great line.
They wanted, it was their job to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what they thought they did.
Yeah.
By giving it up.
It's
We're not
perfect.
letting anybody else have a play.
Right. Oh my gosh. Boy. I got so much stuff in here highlighted about the boomers. I don't even know if we're going to get to Gen X, and I want to get to Gen X. Should we just start moving through this quick?
Yeah. Yeah. We are bomb babies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Kitaya. This is a pretty good chapter, kind of romantic writing. Must be because they were boomers, and I think that they were critical. That they did a lot of romantic love letters in here, but there's some criticism.
I think they're I think they're about as even-handed as they can be.
Yeah.
I don't see them as being, pro we're better than everybody else. I think they are pointing out the fact that, especially in their other books, the later books, they're going to point out that, everything that we've been saying so far. I'm going to agree with them. Sort of.
On page 302, there's a couple of paragraphs I want to pull out here and talk about. This consciousness revolution was waged across a generation gap between boomers and GIs. It began within families as a revolt against fathers. And I thought this was very interesting because I think we see a lot of lingering here today. This consciousness revolution was waged across a generation gap between boomers and GIs. It began within families as a revolt against fathers. Most older Americans who studied young radicals in the late 60s were struck by their attachment to mothers and their ambivalence, Oedipal rebellion, or attitude of parricide toward male authority. Youth fury over Vietnam helped spread this patrophobia beyond the family. Many of the most memorable youth symbols of that era were direct affronts against the constructions of GI men, from the fury over napalm, whose forerunner, the flamethrower, had enabled GIs to overrun enemy pillboxes, and the two-fingered peace taunt, adapted from the old GI V for victory, to the defiant wearing of khaki, the GI color of uniform teamwork, and the desecration of that very symbol of civic loyalty, the American flag. Several of the most celebrated youth uproars of 1969 to 1971 had a decided anti-GI ring. The hippie invasion of Disneyland, the burning of the Isla Vista Bank of America, the Earth Day burial of an automobile. Even as the society-wide generation gap proceeded in the 70s, the boomer ethos remained a deliberate antithesis to everything GI. Spiritualism over science, gratification over patience, negativism over positivism, fractiousness over conformity, rage over friendliness, self over community.
Bingo. That last part. Self over community.
Yeah.
But, and I definitely saw, I can say this, I definitely saw the rebellion against parental figures firsthand. My parents, who were boomers. My father did not get along with his father at all. My uncle and his brother did not get along with his father, but loved his mother. My dad didn't like his mother at all. And on the other side, my other uncle, the one who just passed away, he didn't get along with his parents either. They really fought hard against each other during the entire 60s and 70s from my own recollection and what my mom tells me. So they definitely had a huge chip on their shoulders towards their parents and towards
especially their dads. Yeah.
And especially anybody in an authority figure at all.
Right.
And the thing that really, I mean, and that when that went away, when they started becoming the man instead of railing against the man, that's when I personally lose respect. When you become the hypocrite, and that's what the boomers are. They are the hypocrite generation. They want what they railed against.
Yeah.
That's why I have an issue with them for the most.
Right. I can still love them.
Yeah.
But they really dropped the ball as a generation.
Their music brought me up. Their films brought me up. Their literature brought me up. I
just feel like they sold out the country. Like they sold out their kids' future and the country for their own personal gain.
They sold out everything but themselves.
Yeah.
And they just went the ultimate, for the most part, not all of them, but they just really went insular. And,
Right.
There's something they kind of, they almost, they're like a bunch of turtles, they just stuck their head in after a while and said, nope, 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 I'm in charge.
Right.
I'm in charge.
This
And
is how I do things, and this is how we're gonna do it, and y'all get no say. And this is mine, and we're gonna make all the rules to where, it's mine.
it's mine, and you don't have any.
Yeah. Right. But they did so many good things too. Like it's
That's the
and
hard
it was a split generation. They weren't a monolith by any means.
Oh no, not a stretch. The older, the 1946 to 1950. Oof, yeah. Those guys are hardcore.
Yeah.
The ones that are still alive, they're hardcore because they've survived it.
Right.
In their 80s now, and they're like, I'm still alive.
They are. There's a lot of them out there cosplaying right now as their 60s protest selves. There's so many of them out there. It's like, oh my God.
And the ones in the 70s, like my mom's age, she's just putting her in right along, just doing what she can,
Yep.
just trying to get along and trying to make sure everybody happy. So
my parents are in my mom and stepdad are in their late 60s, and they're both still working. They're both running businesses. They're still working. They're still acquiring assets. They're still going.
Yeah, my mom is still working. She's 20 years older than I am exactly, and she's still working. So God, more power to her. I love my mom. She's holding it down. So
Yep.
She's a hardcore boomer, but she also she's one of the she's self-aware.
Yeah.
She understands what her peer group has wrought in the world, and she she doesn't always agree with everything.
Right. I think a lot of I know my parents, and I think a lot of it has to do with me and my brother though. Talking with them about, I think they've realized just how much they were spoon-fed by their government, how the information that they were given, the things that were being done in secret, the things that were done on the behalf of the American people that they didn't agree with. That they see it more now than they did growing up. They were so trustworthy growing up in a lot of ways of narratives and things that they were being told by the experts, the media experts, the scientist experts, the whatever. But they were very trusting a lot. I guess it depends on what kind of a boomer you were. If you were a yuppie on the coasts in the big cities making your big money, that was my parents were in the middle of the country in a rural town as construction foremans and contractors and business owners, and it was a very different world for boomers depending on where you were, so experiences are very different.
Yeah, my boomer parents didn't become yuppies.
No,
they already had kids. They already had me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this book said the yuppie population was a small percentage.
It really
I was kind of surprised. It was like in the 1% to 2% of I think they said it was a very small percentage of the generation that would have been considered yuppies, because you had to live in a large urban area and in a professional job. Yeah.
But it dominated the culture at the time.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Like a lot of things tend to do, even though they are small in number.
Right.
They catch a cultural zeitgeist for whatever reason. And, the idea of an urban professional, the idea that you could have I remember having 2 incomes and no kids. Was a huge new thing in the late 70s and early 80s. And it wasn't something that was necessarily accepted by people. There was a lot of people though who aspired to it.
Right.
Equal number, dinks. But there were a lot of people who were very divisive about it as Well,
I always think of Margot and Todd from Christmas Vacation, the neighbors of Clark Griswold. Anybody watch Christmas Vacation?
I'm not one of my favorites.
Oh God!
I know that's practically blasphemy, but I'm not.
It is blasphemy because it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I can't remember who the guy is, but yeah, Margot and Todd, they're the neighbors of Clark, and so anything that Clark does, like he breaks their window, like he's trying to light the house. Anyway, they're always the yuppies in my mind. They were not. They were kind of. Sometimes they were the butt of the joke instead of aspirational, because it was just like it was very hoity-toity.
Yeah, well, my uncle was a dank for the longest time. And
yeah.
And they couldn't have kids, so they adopted finally.
Yeah.
Way too late. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you can say that like the same way that the yuppies were a very small percentage of the generation, so are the hippies. The percentage of the generation that were on college campuses protesting the war, even in this book, it said that the support and the protest against the Vietnam War was pretty much split in the generation. They weren't as anti-Vietnam as you would think from our media. At least that's kind of the impression that I got from the book here. There was more support for Vietnam than you would think. It wasn't everybody. It wasn't, again, generation wasn't a monolith. It was too big.
I took a whole class in college on Vietnam, the war in Vietnam, and America's role in it. This was not too long after this book came out, I would say, probably in the mid-90s. And we had actual Vietnam vets in the class, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
And, my dad served in Vietnam. He enlisted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he always told me he wanted to choose what he did. I think he had a pretty high draft number, so he probably would have been drafted anyway, but he just decided to sign up and choose what he got to do instead of being at the mercy of the draft. Right, yeah. So he basically was a company clerk for a helicopter company the entire war.
Wow.
And he served 2 tours. And he made it sound like Vietnam was the greatest thing that ever happened to him, but that was just my dad. So
wow.
Yeah, he loved being in Vietnam. I don't know why. He really enjoyed it. So that was weird for me watching, movies like Platoon and things like that.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. My dad turned 18 in 1970, so he turned 18 right in the heart of the draft era, and he had a high number, but something medically they whatever they called they didn't allow him. They didn't send him over.
Also, one thing that isn't really touched upon nowadays, though it should be more, is that they sent a majority of people of color rather than white kids to Vietnam in drafting.
What?
So, it was disproportionate. The number of minorities that got drafted and sent to Vietnam was way, way higher than white kids.
How is that possible when they just did it by birth date?
They didn't. And they didn't. It was and if you were white and could afford a good lawyer, you didn't have to go to Vietnam, because my uncle didn't go. He got a good lawyer.
They touched on that a little bit in here. It seemed to be maybe more with socioeconomic factors.
Right. It was far more endemic than they touched upon. So most of the kids that died in Vietnam were poor kids, minority kids, and not a whole lot of white kids. Especially not a lot of white educated kids. I'll say that. If you were in college, you didn't go. If you were married, you didn't go.
Right.
You could, if you wanted to say you were gay, you didn't go. There were a lot of people get out of it, and a lot of kids did. So
interesting. Okay, 4F. That's it. 4F. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. All right, back to the book. Bottom of page 302. This quest for self, which Gitlin has termed the voyage to the interior, which I really like, and Christopher Lasch, more critically, the culture of narcissism, was a central theme of the boomer life cycle through rising adulthood. Outwardly, it manifested itself in that distinctly boomer sense of suspended animation, of resisting permanent linkages to mates, children, corporations, and professions. Like Catherine Ross in The Graduate, boomers approached the altar or nursery or corporate ladder and heard something inside them scream, "Stop." Having jammed the gears of the silent era coming of age treadmill, boomers found themselves in a social no man's land, unable to satisfy their perfectionist impulses. Many simply grazed, lending no more than casual interest and wry comment to the world around them, applying what sounded to others like a pick and choose idealism and showing an apparent lack of interest in building community life. There we are again, the me, it's all about me, and no community.
Yep.
That was really a big.
That's why when It Takes a Village came out, it was like, are you really the same people saying that? Are you sure? What happened to? Do you remember like when we were latchkey kids? Yeah,
right.
That was
they really did a 180. Yeah. Yep. If a boomer couldn't afford a house or family, he could at least afford the very best brand of mustard or ice cream. A zen luxuriousness with which Katie Butler watched her peers squeeze the maximum possible enjoyment out of the minimal possible consumption. This mixture of high self-esteem and select self-indulgence has at once repelled and fascinated other generations, giving boomers a reputation for grating arrogance and for transcendent cultural wisdom.
I want to go back up to where I love how he missed the complete total point of the end scene of The Graduate.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that they said scream stop. The point of The Graduate, the ending of The Graduate, is they stopped and then they didn't know what the fuck to do after that.
Right. It was the now what?
Yeah,
like we rebelled. Now what?
Oh, yeah, great. And I love how you just breeze right over that.
Right. Yep. Yep. Now what? Well, I guess now I'll get a job in plastics. Yeah. It'll make me lots of money.
No, I'll go make another movie. It's and chew the scenery in that one too.
Yeah.
Rachel, I went to the Vietnam Wall in DC.
Yes.
It's sobering.
It is very sobering. I went in 1994. I was in high school, and it brought me to tears, and I didn't even understand why. I mean, I was only 16 years old, but like it was wow. It was a wow.
I went in April of '88, and it was it wasn't even a year after my dad died. It was sobering. I cried too.
Yeah, it is. It is quite amazing when you think about just what many of the citizens, our generations, have done before us for many different things, from war to what they've fought and what they've built and what they've torn down. It's quite crazy when you think about it, just what humans have accomplished in the last century. It's just wow.
And what's that strain you're smoking tonight?
Tonight I am smoking Sour Void. It's actually a sativa. I usually smoke indica, but tonight I went with the sativa. I thought maybe it would liven me up a little bit.
I've got banana punch, I think, in mind.
Oh, nice.
Sure what it is. It's tasty.
This is the best part about what's happened since the 60s, is this right here. Legalized pot.
I'm telling you, my dad used to tell me stories about when he was in Vietnam. He would go to the little local, liquor store run by the Mama San and the Papa San, and they would sell joints in packages, and they'd be like $1 a joint. And he said, I love that. I would just, go buy my 5-pack of joints and, I'd be good for a couple of days. And I don't have the heart, I wish my dad was here to see it now. But I have a bag full of joint pre-rolls. They keep giving me one every time I get my vape cartridge delivered.
Yeah, I get a pre-roll comes with every package of this band. Yeah, believe me, I did 4 years in prison over pot, so it blows my mind.
Oh my God.
Okay.
By the way, when are you going to have when are you going to have a live stream on that?
Oh, a live stream about my case?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know there's a couple of there's one influencer out there, one TikToker who's doing what was life for her in prison.
Yeah, I actually considered doing something along those lines, like a channel about it, but then after spending 10 years fighting and going through all the court cases and going in prison and all this stuff, like once I was exonerated and everything was overturned and I was released, I just wanted to stop thinking about it.
I didn't even know that part. That's new to me. That's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the proper etiquette is to ask. So
gotcha. For those of you that don't know, in 2000,
you mentioned it once or twice before, but
in 2011, my brother and I were arrested for possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. It's a long story, but basically, my brother was growing 12 pot plants in a house that I had leased with my name on the lease. So, so they arrested me because my name is on the lease, and my brother. So
distributing up the wazoo there.
Oh yeah, I know, right? It was a big deal. We had so I had never been in trouble before. Neither had my brother. Like neither one of us. We were in our 30s, right? It was just personal grow. And, when you say 12 plants, you had 4 different stages. So it wasn't like you had a big.
So I've tried to grow before.
Yeah. So we were arrested, and they were going to a person went into to the house with a maintenance man to change out a fire extinguisher, but they didn't give us any notice that they were going to come into the house. So the guy came in, started snooping around, found the plants in my brother's closet. And we got arrested. The cops were going to give us $100 fine and let us go, but the district attorney it was an election year and he wanted to win in his election. So he was like, no, we're going to charge them as the biggest drug dealers in the history of our county and put the full force of the county after us. So we had to fight this case for 2 years. And it's a whole story. Anyway, we end up just to make it stop and go away. We ended up making a deal. But then the judge would allow. Anyway, they gave us maximum sentences. I got 30 years. My brother got 47 years, and so it was 2 15 sentences running concurrently. So I went to prison, maximum security, for 4 years. Fought the case. Our case was completely overturned by the Missouri Supreme Court. We were both.
Because of an illegal search.
It was. Huh? It's crazy, but anyway. So after all of that, Missouri has legalized pot. So between the overturning in the Supreme Court and the legalization, my record has been completely expunged, and I'm no longer a felon. But that was my life for about 12 years. Was that case? And so once it was over, I was like, I never want to talk about this ever again.
I'm sorry to make you bring it up.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But I mean, it was kind of a big deal at the time. There was stories about us in the Huffington Post. There was stories about us in the Guardian over in the UK. Like we were interviewed by news outlets all over the world, and it was a crazy, crazy situation. And I would need days to tell the story. But anyway.
What year did the incident happen?
What year? What?
What year did you get busted?
2011. If you guys want to just go to, I'm sure it's probably still on Missouri CaseNet. We were arrested in 2011. I went into prison in 2013. I was released in 2017. Everything was overturned and expunged in 2017. And then Missouri legalized pot in 2018, I believe. Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that I should write a book. I've considered it. I've considered either writing a book or just making a YouTube channel out of it and just telling the story through videos instead of writing the book. But I don't know. I'm
you'll have an audience. You'll have an audience.
yeah. I'm not ready to revisit it yet.
Give it some time.
But I think at some point I will, but because there's a lot of things that I need to kind of get over and let go and kind of just, I mean, it took my entire 30s. Like, it happened to me. I got arrested when I was 33, and it wasn't all over until I was in my early 40s. And so I didn't get that. So I didn't get to date. I didn't get to get married. I didn't get to have kids. I didn't my whole 30s into my 40s was just this case and prison and courts and all over a couple of plants of pot that were in my brother's closet. Ooh, I should write a children's book. That'd be great. Thank you, Crumbler69. I appreciate that. My brother is a great guy. My brother, this was a whole bunch of nonsense. So it was the prosecutor. Like I said, the cops were going to give us $100 ticket and call it a day, but the prosecutor was like, "No, we're going after him."
We should do. You know what we should do? We should do a live stream for the members, and like I'll interview both of you at the same time.
Okay.
You can tell your story, and I'll just ask questions. And then,
okay. I'll ask Dave and see if he's up for it.
It doesn't have to be anytime soon.
Right.
Whenever you're up for it. But
gotcha.
I'm totally interested in doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy,
Your story should be told, and you should have a voice to express how you got railroaded by fucking politicians.
Well, it was the war on drugs by like a crazy amount, and it really changed my perspective on the criminal justice system and the correction system. Did I sue? We attempted to, but the statute of limitations on things ran out, and no lawyer would represent us to sue prosecutors and other lawyers. Like, it drained me. It bankrupted me. They put $100,000 bonds on both me and my brother. So it cost me $20,000 to get us out of jail, or else we would have had to sit in jail for 2 years before our trial. But yeah, so it bankrupted us, and we just got to a point where it was just like, I can't do this. We can't do this anymore. I just want to move on with my life. So anyways, sorry guys for that tangent.
That's my bad. I did that. I take responsibility. It was my question.
Yeah.
You're mad at me. I'm sorry.
So when I talk about the criminal justice system, I have a really unique perspective on all of that.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm the hippie who's been smoking my whole life, and I have, knock on wood, I've never been arrested.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and my brother and I talk about that a lot. Like, we've known people that have dealt for their whole lives and never once had any issues. And, we grow a couple of plants in our closet, and literally, like, we get the book thrown at us. Apologize. There was nothing for my brother to apologize for. He was growing a couple of plants in his closet. Like, I'm not, like, I smoked weed. Like, I'm, it was nothing for me to get mad about. What we were mad about was that somebody came into the apartment illegally, and then they got away with it because for a lot of different reasons in the court. So
they should have thrown that right out. They shouldn't even have gotten to the trial, because that is such a tainted search. If they didn't have your permission to be in the unit, that should have been thrown out immediately.
And that's what we were banking on, and it never. And they just wouldn't.
That's just a breach of actual. Property management. I wrote leases. I know what they.
Yeah, and I know, and that's why we fought it so hard for so long, and that's because we thought there's no way they're going to let this go. There was a legal search and seizure. They came into, yada yada yada. But anyways, sorry guys, generations, baby boomers.
Beetle Pepperland. Their sense of generational identity is more a Beatlian Pepperland.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
Pepperland, I know, right? That was good stuff. All right.
Having come of age with a mainly inner catharsis, boomers sustain a compelling urge for the perfection of man's religious impulses and for reducing any dependence on the physical self.
The boomers, man.
You don't even have to comment. You just don't just read it out loud. It's like,
yeah. I'm just gonna read a little bit, and we're just gonna have
we're just gonna sit here and go,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The boom's drug phase passed after being transcendence to the first wave crime. My boomer uncle got mad at me for giving his 21-year-old daughter weed.
Really? Well, no, I get it, because my parents, believe me, even after everything my brother and I have been through, my parents still have this weird thing about pot. And I'm just like, why? Like, because their whole lives were told that pot was this horrible drug,
The boomer who used to smoke weed.
Yeah.
He did more drugs than I can think of.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, it's
At least my dad always told me, if you really want to smoke weed, come to me first. I didn't get a chance. He died before I had the opportunity. But I've made up for it since. And I praise him every time. Here's for you, Daddy.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad. All for you. All right.
Here's one for you, buddy.
Yep. All right, page 303.
That's what I was.
So, okay. Exalting what you just said, the Pepperland. They try to be together people, not collectively, but individually, consistent with what David Pilkey defines as the notion that infinite worth resides in each and every one of us. Like Donald Trump, a prototype boomer sees himself capable of becoming a titan of whatever world he chooses fully to inhabit, providing cover for personal disappointments, or as a boomer might put it, deferred ambitions.
Providing cover, i.e., covering it up. No, I didn't do that. What me?
Having come of age with mainly an inner catharsis, boomers sustain a compelling urge for the perfection of man's religious impulses and for reducing any dependence on the physical self. The boom's drug phase passed after being transcendent to the first wave crime to the last, and by 1990 has been stripped of its spiritual trappings by boomers, office seekers especially, who now say they didn't enjoy what they repeatedly ingested.
I never inhaled. Sure you didn't, Bill.
Yep. I didn't inhale. That's right. In their subsequent search for spiritual euphoria, boomers flocked from drugs to religion, to Jesus movements, evangelicalism, New Age utopianism, and millennialist visions of all sorts. As they did, they spawned the most active era of church formation of the 20th century. That surprised me.
That did me too, but also because the more religious were moved to be more religious by the powers that be in the 80s.
Yeah.
And the 90s, I think. There was definitely a more try to get back to spiritualism and
right. And it wasn't necessarily Christianity either. It was, it was that. I think that's what really exploded at the time was other types of spirituality or other types of religion.
Mm-hmm.
So
spirituality started to becoming very, New Age religions started to really become on the rise.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. The boomer self-absorption has also lent their generation, male and female, a hermaphroditic pistil and stamen quality. In the singular generation, Wanda Urbanska exalted their self-sexuality, their ability to give pleasure to oneself. Having grown up when sex role distinctions had reached their 1950s era zenith, boomers of both sexes have spent a lifetime narrowing them. Men are intruding into the domain of values nurturance that in their youth mainly belonged to GI mothers and teachers, while boomer women are invading the secular roles once reserved for can-do GI males. These trends have made boomers more independent of social bonds, yet also more open to emotional isolation and economic insecurity. Concerned that their male peers may be unreliable providers, boomer women are the first since the peers of Jane Addams to fear that early marriage and family may actually worsen their future household standard of living. And there's the beginning of the breakdown of the marriage and the family structure. We're done.
So, but it's also the starting to become more the genders becoming more equal in terms of the roles that they are expected to perform.
Right.
And for that, I think that's a positive. You know, I do see that it does weaken some of the familial bonds in marriage, but also at the same time, it's still just a part of evolution, you know, and our marriage and families are evolving as we speak. And we have so many different types of families now. The nuclear family of the 50s is just no longer the norm.
Yeah. It makes me sad. I really like the nuclear family because I think I think children thrive better with two parents in the house. I think that people there's a better chance for a successful, comfortable life when you have our society boomed when the nuclear family was the foundation of our society. We boomed big time. And, I just think that, I think I'm not saying that it has to be that way for everybody, but I think that it is pretty obvious that if you want the best outcomes for children, that the nuclear family is the best setup for that. And I think that's been proven pretty well in the numbers, in the data. Because once you take the father out of the home, and if you get down to one parent, the numbers for possible poverty, crime, lack of education, all that stuff just skyrockets. So I understand that, different family types. And also the other thing is we've taken our children from being educated by their families and their parents, and we put it on the state. Now we just give our kids to the state for 9 hours a day from the age of 3 to 18. That's crazy. I think that's crazy. That's just me.
Well, I can tell you this as a father and a stay-at-home father for the first
nice.
My kid's life. Couldn't wait for that motherfucker to go to school.
I have a hard time hearing you when you get really low like that. I can't hear what you're saying.
That's not a bad thing. No, he my train of thought. Okay.
You lost it? It's okay. Yeah. That's okay.
I was going to go there. Maybe I'll remember what it is in a minute, but
that works. No problem. Yeah. All right. Let's keep moving to some what's the last little bit of what I got highlighted, and then we'll move on to some boomer facts. As boomers began entering midlife, a schism has emerged between mostly 40-ish modernists and New Agers at one edge, and mostly 30-ish traditionalists and evangelicals at the other. This was kind of what we were talking about earlier with the split in the generation.
And I don't know that we still even see that though with the boomers. That's
I think it's probably more urban and rural than it is modernist and traditionalists would be my guess, because I still live in a very rural traditional area.
I think that's probably true for most of America right now. It's a lot of this is what's going on is the differences between the urban and non-urban.
Each side refuses to compromise on matters of principle, believing, like anti-abortionist Bill Tickle, that it's just easier to have blanket absolutes. This values clash reflects an important bipolarity between the generation's first and last waves, whose differences have been widely noted by pollsters and marketers. Down to the bottom. This generation has a fuse-lit explosiveness well suggested by its name. In 1946, Fortune magazine declared the start of the Great American Boom, a boom not just in fertility, but also in economics, education, housing, and science. The robust achievements and optimism of that era left a lasting mark on children. If GIs measure their worth objectively by the works they leave to history, boomers measure themselves subjectively by the spiritual strength they see within. Many are having difficulty matching their parents' like-aged achievements in economic and family life. That surprised me. I always had the idea that all boomers did better than their parents,
No.
but that is not the case.
No, and it became more increasingly disparate as the boomers aged, because their parents also didn't necessarily want to give up power,
right,
and didn't necessarily want to leave behind anything for their kids.
Right.
So the boomers did kind of reap a little bit of what they sow later.
Yeah.
Already. So it definitely happened to the boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some boomer. Well, hold on. Last paragraph, and then we'll do some boomer facts.
Especially as boomers age now, the boomers that are still alive now are definitely not doing as well.
Yeah.
You lost your camera, by the way.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I cannot see you.
Well, yeah. Oh, your browser has lost connection to your camera. This happened last couple of weeks ago. I don't know why it does that.
You can still see your book though.
Yeah. We can see everything but my mug.
Which I think that's what everybody else is here for. You're here for me.
Okay, hold on. They're here for me.
Did you ever see the ref? No, I never did see the ref. I do like Dennis Leary though, but I have not seen the ref. I think it's one of those I just skipped for some reason. There you are.
I'm changing cameras.
Changing camera.
And then my light's gonna be. Hold on.
That's how I have damp.
Oh, it's gonna be so bad because my light's not in the right place for this camera.
Yes, Gen X is now in their midlife. Our Gen X ages are from about 42, 43, 44 to just about 61, I think. Is the oldest Gen X, they're turning 61 this year.
Yeah, according to Pew Research. If you go by Pew Research, we're 45 to 60 right now.
Yeah.
If you go by Strauss and Howe, we are 44 to 64.
Yeah, I don't think 64s is 62, 63-year-olds as being Gen X, though. It's hard. No, it's hard.
That's Elizabeth Shue, Ralph Macchio, Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves. It's all the people that were in the movies in the 80s, the 16 Candles movies, and they're on the cusp. They're the cuspers.
Right.
They're Jones. They're Generation Jones, really.
But I think, most rank and file, I would say, don't really strike me as being.
It really just depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Those early 60s babies. Well, and when we get into the Generation X part, I really want to talk about that because this book really, when it talks about Gen X or the 13th generation, and because it was written in 91, all their focus is on babies in the 60s, especially the early 60s.
Yeah.
Which made me, I had a hard time relating to some of it, because I wasn't here till 77. So I was definitely the last of the Gen Xers. I definitely felt my cuspiness by reading this book because I, I'm part Gen X, part millennial. I'm a zennial. And I have to be okay with that.
I think also it's a lot of it is self-identification. Like, what do you consider?
Definitely.
And for the most part, I would say, in my experience, people that have been born in the early 60s will identify as more Gen X because they don't want to be boomers.
Right. Absolutely. Just like 1980 and 1981 babies don't want to be millennials, they want to be Gen X.
They want to be their own generation a lot. A lot of them want to be this Generation Jones, which is the name of the cuspers.
Right.
A lot of them want to have their own, they think they have an own micro generation. That's
Well, and I think they kind of do because, like, okay, for instance, my mom, like, some people had defined Generation Jones as late 50s, early 60s babies.
Yeah.
That they're different from, you know, the 40s and early 50s babies. My mom was born in 1957. She's actually considered Generation Jones or a young boomer. And so if she's Gen Jones and then I'm Zennial or Gen X, like we're only 19 years apart. So it definitely, having a Gen Jones mom and a Gen Jones stepdad is very different from having a silent dad or even a core boomer parent. So there's some difference there, I think. I'm having a hard time looking at cameras because I forget that I'm doing this one. But
no, there's definitely a difference between having boomer parents and silence.
Yeah. Nicole, I'm right there. It's first year Gen X, and I can say that being born then gave us the full Gen X experience. First year Gen X, do you mean first year by Strauss and Howe or first year by Pew? Because the reason Pew does 1965 to 1980 is strictly based on population data, birth rates. That's why they cut us off at 65-80. Strauss and Howe goes by culture, which is why they go 61 to 81. So that's why we had this debate, really. It's population trends versus culture and historical events and all that stuff. So it's going to be a constant debate. You're never going to have your absolutes on the dates and all of that. That's just my 65. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's it's like tilting at windmills, you know. It really is, because you cannot get a consensus no matter what. You can't. I mean, my personal consensus, I don't agree with 65, but I don't agree with 61.
Right.
I'm more cultural. I think if you were born in the Americas or you live in America and you can remember Kennedy being alive, you are a baby boomer. If you do not, you are Gen X. If you were born around that time period. Right.
Yeah. It's there's never gonna be a end all be all definition or date. You're gonna have to have your cuspers. There's just no way around it. It's just, it's just that's how it's gonna be.
Baby busters. I remember them talking
about baby busters. And they actually call us baby busters in here at one point.
Well, because there was that, because of the pill. The as you've mentioned before, the first time that people, people didn't.
You could choose not to have us. Yeah, we were the first generation that people could choose not to have. Yep. And so you had the pill in 1965, then you had Roe v. Wade in 73. And so, and then with the attitudes towards children at the time, we're all lucky that we're here. Those of us that actually made it.
Yep. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. You're right, Dan. This is social science. Absolutes are very hard to come by. Boomer facts. Boomer facts. Boomer facts. In training, confidence, and sheer time spent changing bed sheets, no generation of American women can match the GIs for the intensity of the nurture they provided their mostly boomer children. Among boomer preschoolers who had working mothers, 4 in 5 were cared for in their own homes, usually by relatives. Only 2% attended institutional childcare. So that was very interesting. That really didn't start happening until the Gen X. But even then, I think millennials is when it really started to boom. The whole institutional childcare, daycare, preschool, all that stuff.
I was in 1973, so I don't know.
You were in
reference. I was at I was in childcare.
You were?
Yeah. My mom worked at UCLA, and my dad worked too. So actually, my dad was going to UCLA at the time. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yep, that's when it really started to happen. Was our generation. Before then, it was not common at all to do that. You were usually at home until kindergarten, first grade. Kindergarten used to be an option. I don't know if people know this, but but there was a time, I think that changed around 1979 when the Department of Education started. but used to, there was a time when I was little, kindergarten was an option. You could go or not, or you could just go into the first grade. I don't know if it was, but it could be a state by state thing. But
I
anyways,
didn't realize it was an option. I just knew I didn't go.
I gotcha.
They just told me I didn't have to because I could already read.
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, do you need like that? You know, I'm sorry about my camera, guys. I'm using my really crappy webcam, so I'm gonna be out of focus. But it wasn't an option in your state. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you know, it depends, I guess, on what state you were in. But that out of focus, Barbara Walters soft focus is gonna drive me nuts. Stop being so out of focus there. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, the whole point is that up until the baby boomers, the first 5-6 years of a kid's life were spent at home and being raised and raised by their mama and grandma.
And now first 5 is like a freaking meme or something, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You take care of your kid in the first 5.
Like,
what about the rest of it? Huh?
Yeah. I just can't imagine, like, I can't imagine, like, if, I mean, I never had kids, but if I would have, I can't imagine dropping them off at, 1, 2, 3 years old. I'd be like, nope, they're staying with me. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But the fact that it's become such a standard.
I was definitely ready for preschool.
Were you?
Yeah, definitely.
I was ready for school.
Just to have a couple hours a day of not having to be the caretaker was nice. And then I was ready for them to go to school when they were ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. Definitely. I mean, I still pick them up.
Yeah.
Home. It wasn't like they didn't come home to an empty house. Not till later anyway. Not until I was a single dad.
And that's when you were single? Is that what you said?
Yeah. When I was single. Coming home by himself.
Little kiddos. I wish I'd had kids, but it is what it is. All right. Bottom of 305.
They're lovely and they and then you want to kill them too. So.
Oh, I know.
I sometime, but I love him. He's not in the room today.
Yep. By almost any standard of social pathology, the boomer is a generation of worsening trends. From first wave to last wave teenagers, death rates for every form of accidental death rose sharply. The rates of drunk driving, self-deletion, illegitimate births, and teen unemployment all doubled or tripled. Crime rates also mounted with each successive cohort, giving rise after the mid-1960s to crime waves that seemed to worsen with each passing year. During the 1970s, the incidence of serious youth crime grew twice as fast as the number of youths. Criminals born in 1958, moreover, were 80% more likely than criminals born in 1945 to commit multiple crimes, and 80% more likely to send their victims to the hospital or the morgue. That makes it sound like things got really bad for them.
Oh, yeah, and then the next paragraph doesn't make it sound much better.
Let's see here. Next paragraph. The 17-year SAT slide spanned nearly the entire boom, from the 1946 cohort to the 1963 13-year cohort. Yet the worst years of that slide coincided with the greatest grade inflation ever measured. In 1969, 4% of college freshmen claimed to have had a straight A high school grade average. By 1978, that proportion had nearly tripled to 11%. Wow. From 69 to 75, the average collegiate grade rose from a C+ to a B. By 1971, 3/4 of all colleges offered alternatives to traditional marking systems. So they're making it easier, making school easier to get. It sounds like.
You know what also they didn't mention here? It was cheap.
Yeah. It was.
Well, back then, excuse me, but it was super cheap to go to college back then.
It was.
Take out student loans or any of that BS.
Yeah.
And so those two paragraphs, everything went to crap during the boom generation, and education was easier for them because we're gonna make it easier for you guys because you're too dumb.
We're going to educate the snot out of you.
Yeah. And then
We're going to indoctrinate you from day one, baby.
And what did they do in the 80s and 90s? Oh, school's not hard enough for these kids. They're not learning anything. Let's make it harder.
Oh my God. Yeah. But at the same time, nobody's learning anything. Like, it just got worse and worse.
Don't get me
And
started.
now the kids can't read. Apparently.
They're definitely, I agree with the you try to look at how they teach kids today. It doesn't make sense at all.
It's slopped with so much advanced education degrees. Like,
Garbage.
they have made everything so ridiculous. Don't get me started. That's a conversation for another day.
I could not help my kid do math because of the way they taught it.
That's yeah. I took my niece and nephew out of school and homeschooled them their final few years. I was just like, nope, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
I was like, we are not doing this.
Like, Nikati says you should adopt a Gen Zer. You have a Gen Zer. If you want to adopt him, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
Send it away. I love my kid. I'm kidding. I would not.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should find myself a Gen Zer to adopt.
Yeah. I mean, just be a good auntie. That's
I have my niece and my nephew, and they definitely,
They're Gen Z, right? You said?
Huh?
They're Gen Z?
Yes, 19 and 20. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Be the good auntie.
I will. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, make sure. Yeah. Oh.
Yep. Let's go ahead and get through these boom facts. And I'm sorry that we're not going to get into Generation X tonight, guys. We're already 2 hours into this conversation. I knew it was going to happen.
Okay, I can sum up the sexual revolution paragraph in one sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. Men lied and women had more sex.
Women lied too. But yes, women had way more sex. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was just like everybody's getting laid.
There seemed like it. And then we got the shaft. Just as I'm getting to be a teenager age.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The survey showed boomer men only a 3% increase in sexual activity over with silent and like age. But the women were like doubling from 41% to 81%. That is, whoo. They really did a number on the women of that generation, didn't they?
Well, the women of that generation finally said, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. They were told that it was, it was okay. Yay. Damn the consequences. Get on those hormonal birth control and screw your brains out. It'll be great, I promise. It'll be great.
There was that sexual, awakening, and it was a thing. It was. I
know.
Books. They had lots of fear. Have you ever read Fear of Flying? Oh my God.
Their books, yeah. And now Gen Z is doing the total opposite.
I know.
They're like, no more.
Bad, I worry. I worry, I worry. It's like, do you know what an orgasm is?
I don't even think they know what true love and attraction is at this point, much less orgasm.
They don't know how to have social interactions with you.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
screens have gotten in the way.
They don't know how to make a phone call. That's
no.
fun.
No.
That's
I had to like train my niece and nephew how to like go into a store or a restaurant and order something. Like, they were freaked out of the thought of going in somewhere and placing an order. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. No, I've had that happen too.
Yeah. And it blew me away. It just blew me away.
Yeah, my kid
took forever to get a driver's license, but finally I was like, you're getting a driver's license and you're getting a job.
I'm fighting that battle on a daily basis.
Are you?
I have to say, my kid actually applied for jobs today. I was blown away.
Yay!
That's something I said finally has hit. It's not like barista jobs. I'm like, go for it, but you need to apply for about 100 before you'll get a call.
All right, boomer facts. The boom's only consensus lesson about Vietnam was that it was badly handled by GI leaders. That was kind of a fun sentence.
I don't even think there's still no consensus about it.
No, there is not
anybody. It was just effed to the
end. That was the only lesson. But then, as they said, fast forward to 1990, following Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in 90, boomers were more inclined than any other generation to believe that sending American troops to the Gulf was the right thing to do.
Can't even talk about that.
I know.
Desert Storm happened the day of my 19th birthday.
Really?
Yep. That's when they first attacked Kuwait on the day of my 19th birthday.
Man. Did you watch it on CNN?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact, watch it on CNN.
Yep. We talked about the establishment of churches, the surge in New Age and evangelical sects.
Which I think, that is very, very interesting that the boomers did go higher into religion, and yet all the generations since then have really slacked off. And I think that the Zers are going to, I think the Gen Zers and the Alphas are really going to put a crimp in organized religion in this country.
Yeah. It's interesting because they say that
it's still cyclical. It'll come back.
It's all cyclical.
It'll come back at the end of the century. You know?
So you're saying that Gen Z is going away from religion?
I think so. So.
Yeah, I've seen the opposite. I've seen Gen Z going towards religion.
I see Gen Alpha definitely moving away from religion.
Really?
In droves. Huh. I don't think they want to have anything.
Boy, there's a big difference between where we live.
And listen, don't forget, I'm in Los Angeles too, so there's definitely there's a West Coast thing going on, but also,
there's definitely a West Coast thing going on.
Also, there's a lot of religion going on around me.
But I would say
all sorts of them, and there's the numbers are dwindling. I'm seeing churches close. That is so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we have churches on every corner in where I live. I live in the Bible Belt, and it's still, but I would say that even though they said the boomers went real religious, at the same time, they pulled religion out of society. Like, society went secular. Like, they might have gone to church or, and in certain places, but the whole idea of any kind of traditional Christian religion, anything, became very laughable in our society and our entertainment. They became the butt of jokes. They were the TV preachers, the religion. All the political correctness of the 90s was very anti-traditional, conservative, religious worldviews. So it's interesting that the baby boomers got so religious and spiritual, but yet our society became very secular. Would you agree with that or not?
I definitely would think, and the secularity is just more or less because there's a globalization and the opening of other religions to through immigration as well. So you've also got you've got the influx of a lot of Asian religions. You've got Christianity is probably, it's never going to go away, but
oh no, Christianity is still by far the dominant religion in the United States. It's about 70%. 65 to 70%.
It's losing numbers though, and all the other religions are gaining relatively.
I don't know. The South American, Mexican immigrants are very Christian. They're very Christian. There's a lot of conservative Hispanic populations, Christian populations. So I think we have to be very careful here about what kind of media we're seeing and what we're being told about what's actually happening. And of course where we live, because Los Angeles is a whole different world compared to where I live. Where I live, there's 25,000 people. There's 45,000 people in my county, about 25,000 people in my town. We are 97% white European, and we're 97% Christian where I live. So
Yeah, I think
we
there's
are
about
very different from where you are in Los Angeles. But I think that shows the difference in America, just the differences in the American people.
I think there's about 50,000 people on my street.
Yeah. See, there's
Like,
when I say there's 50,000 people in my county, it's a large area. Like, it's not just like we're talking like there's places where I can go where your next neighbor is 10 miles away. Like, it can get very rural. And that's kind of what I'm moving towards someday. I'm just gonna buy me a few acres and just be out in the middle of nowhere, baby. Okay, we got to wrap this up.
and I'll be
finally in Boomer Facts. Where am I at here?
Californians, personally, I just want SoCal to have it be its own state, and I don't want to be in the rest of the Americas. I don't want to be there. No, I want Southern California to be its own little country. Thank you.
Well, I think that
that'll be fine with me, but that's just
I would like for all the states to be their own states. I would. I really would. Like, I mean, I would like to go back to the nation of states idea. We have less centralized power in Washington, 100%. Because I would like all the different states to be able to do the things they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, with the common bind of the Constitution as our country's founding and basis. But I would love for our states to just do their own thing. All right, finally. Were it not for employed women and dual income households, boomer family incomes would be well below what the silent earned at like age. Married boomer couples were doing slightly better than their next elders did. Single women, much better. But the individual boomer man, not. A 40-year-old first waiver earns about 15% more than his GI father did at like age, whereas a 30-year-old last waiver has fallen about 10% behind his silent father. That is a huge change in boomers from the first to the last wave. Boomer men.
Yeah, boomer men kind of did not do as well as their.
No. And then it's gotten worse and worse for Gen X and Millennial and Gen Z. Like, men have really have really been thrown by the wayside. Which makes me sad. Between ages 30 and 40, where the typical full-time GI worker enjoyed a 63% inflation-adjusted rise in income, the first wave boomer work suffered a net 1% decline. Asked to compare themselves economically with their fathers at the same phase of life, boomers are evenly split over whether they are doing better or worse. Yet they overwhelmingly consider their careers better, their personal freedoms greater, and their lives more meaningful. I'm so sorry that we didn't get to the Gen X today at all, guys. That was not my plan. I didn't think I would get so bogged down in the boomers, but it is what it is. So
I'll take the blame for that one.
It's okay. But I put a quote on the video tonight for the video's title that we didn't even get to. But I will say in the beginning of the Gen X section, it says that talking about Gen X kids sensed that adults were simply not in control of themselves or the country. And I thought that was a great way to start off our chapter for Gen Xers. And we'll get there, but we will wrap up the boomer life cycle next week, and then we'll get into a week of Gen X. And we're going to be reading it basically line by line because I think it's very interesting. Not completely, but we're going to be reading a lot of it here on the thing next week. Maybe I can wrap up the boom here real fast. Boomers and youth, they wanted their children to be interdirected. It seemed logical to us that fascism and communism could not really succeed except in countries where children were raised in very authoritarian homes. That was the youth of the boom life cycle. So boomers were raised in authoritarian homes. Boom children enjoyed a hothouse nurture, an intensely child-focused household, and communities.
They had that damn Leave It to Beaver lifestyle.
Yep, they did. As successive boom cohorts passed through childhood, the adult nurturing style leaned more towards tolerance than guidance, and parents began second guessing the sacrifices they were making for the sake of their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that part resonates.
Yes. Yep. GIs. Yet, whether first waivers asserting a creative role in an idealized future or last waivers attempting a more defiant withdrawal from the world, adolescents looked within themselves to find solutions to life's problems. As the boomers were coming of age, the dawning of the silent-led but boom-energized free speech movement, these undergraduates served first notice of what would, by 1967, become the most emotionally intense and culturally influential youth rebellion in American history. Screaming radicals and freaked out hippies represented, just 10 to 15% of their generation, which I was kind of surprised it was that low. Yeah, but they get into the whole me generation of the 70s. I don't know how much you guys want to get into this before you want to get into the Gen X next week, but a lot of boomer stuff.
Boomer.
Boomers.
Boomers.
It's fun.
We love the boomers, though.
We do. There's a lot to love. There's a lot to love about the boomers. Yeah. But yeah, next week is going to be, we're going to wrap up the boomers next week, and then it'll be a couple of hours of Gen X. Gen X.
No matter what music you like, their music was fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
Good music.
Yep.
Country or jazz or whatever.
Yep.
Music from the 60s and 70s was the best.
Yes. Good stuff.
They had good stuff. Some of them make good things. And it's just a lot of them.
Yeah. It's a big generation. There's good ones and bad ones. There's winners, there's losers. I just wish that it's just time for them to go. It's time for them to release the hold on society.
That stranglehold that they have had for way too long is summarize the entire stream in one sentence. Boomers bad. No. Boomers problematic, but we love them. That's
Boomers inherited an amazing world from the GI and silent and decided, we're just going to keep it for ourselves. We're going to destroy a bunch of it, keep the good stuff for ourselves, and then screw everybody else.
Yeah, it's like they were given a really nice sponge, and they just said, okay, we're going to sponge and, squish it and squeeze all the stuff we can get out of it. No, it's a pomegranate. They had a big pomegranate, and they suck out all the seeds. Boy, that's a really bad metaphor. But
no, they're like a private. The boomer generation is like a private equity company. They come in and they pull out all of the assets and all of the good stuff out of something and just leave it saddled with a bunch of debt. That's what the boomers did. Yep. Boomers are private equity firms and hedge funds. That's what the boomer generation is.
Yeah, we love boomers though because they're our parents.
Yep.
I mean, my parents were boomers.
Yeah, and they did get hosed a lot by their leadership. Let's be honest.
We did. We went through it. They got kind of the shaft because as they're starting to rebel, their parents were like, "Thank you very much."
Yeah.
We're gonna do our own thing.
Yeah. But one thing that we did not mention when we were talking about the GIs and the silent was like what the American government did post World War II, kind of like with their intelligence agencies, their different, MK Ultra type stuff that they did to the American people in a lot of ways. All the chemicals that the different companies were putting into the water supplies and the food and like it was a booming time, but the government and some corporations did some crazy shit back in the mid-century.
I used to remember Monsanto for being like the company that sponsored Disneyland rides.
Yes, Monsanto is in St. Louis. Like the Monsanto was a big part of Missouri.
I had no idea until the 90s that Monsanto was an evil corporation. When I found out, I was like, but they did voyage through inner space and Disneyland. How could they be evil?
But why are the boomers so gullible? We'll talk about this. When we get into the Century of the Self, we're gonna watch that at the end of this book. I don't know if I'm gonna do it here or over on Discord, but there was a lot of communication manipulation. Remember, this was still in the early days of TV and mass communication, and
mass media was definitely fledgling.
Yeah. And they didn't realize, like, all the TV networks that were created in the 20s and 30s that are still around today, NBC, CBS, ABC, they were all created in the 20s and 30s, and they all did it in congruence with the American government. The American government has always been involved in our media in a very stealthy way, and a lot of times running the different news divisions and things like that throughout their whole life. So I don't think that they were media savvy enough to realize how much of that information was being manipulated and controlled. I mean, how would you know? I mean,
you're 100% right. The faith in mass media, especially newspapers and the nightly news, was second to none. Walter Cronkite was near God.
Cronkite was the god, and trust in the media around Cronkite's years in the 70s was around 80 to 85%, and that was from both parties. It was a very high. People just trusted and we talked about this last week a little bit, the cultural narrators of the time. These were very trusted people. The news broadcasters, the newspaper columnists, the political leaders of the time that were on television, that were that were the big newsmakers, the faces that were on the TV, on the newsreels at the movie theater. So, like, it's just they didn't know any better,
right?
And then basically, and Gen X wasn't completely, immune to any of that, all of that either. We grew up being literally targeted by every company on earth, from food companies to clothing companies to media companies to and
you could kind of say that we were the first real generation to be advertised to.
We were.
I don't believe that the boomers in their youth were really advertised to, because they weren't seen as having
any economic power.
They didn't have any income.
They had no economic power. Right. Yeah. They had plus there was very few ways to get their attention. There was very few kids type shows or kids type media to be able to put in any kind of advertisement or product placement into anything. There was a few things, don't get me wrong. But it was Star Wars that started the media marketing, merchandising type of Hollywood machine.
Well, even prior to that, though, they also started to market towards kids.
They did. They started they had the ABC after school specials that started in 1973. You had your PBS, which had no advertising, but you had your Sesame Street and your younger. So you had programming, but the real targeted advertising towards that demographic really didn't come around until really increase until the 70s. And then in the 80s, literally every serial, cartoon, toy character was all a big package deal. they would make a cartoon to sell the cereal or sell the toys, right?
The cartoons were 30-minute ads because deregulated television.
Yeah.
And that became, and that was the way it was for most of the 80s until the 90s, and they had to
and they changed all the programming.
They had to re-regulate.
So there you have it, and there you are. Thank you guys so much for the wonderful conversation tonight. For those of you that were hanging out with us all night long, you got to hear a lot of my dirty laundry, so good for you. You know that I was a convicted felon, but no longer.
No, that's been expunged. You don't have to say that.
Nope. It's all expunged.
You're not even an ex-con anymore.
Nope, I'm not. I voted in the last couple of presidential elections. I got everything expunged. Yeah.
And you got a great story out of it, even though you may not want to tell it right now. But
right.
When you're
It's
ready.
quite a story. It's quite a story.
You'll have an audience. That's the thing. You'll have an audience who will be empathetic and sympathetic and who will, help, hopefully, normalize whatever that experience was.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun to tell that. I mean, I need to do it at some point, and I will.
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Statute of limitations, lounge singer, statute of limitations. Plus, we couldn't get any lawyers to really help us do it. That's right. Most doctors smoke Camels. I worked for R.J. Reynolds for a lot of years. You're attracted to my time in jail? Don't be attracted to my time in jail. It was not.
Well, little Joe, I'm sure there's plenty of women out there who need a pen pal.
Oh yeah, believe me, but be careful with that because they will just take you for every dollar you're worth. So, movie night. Next Monday, we're doing a documentary marathon at the 80s. Yep, 4 out of 5 doctors prove her lucky strikes. That is correct.
Toasted? Which one was toasted?
Was that Chesterfield's or was that Camel?
That was in Mad Men.
Louis Lucky Strike. Then I guess it was Lucky Strike that was toasted. Yeah.
Well, it's toasted. Who cares?
Yep.
Who cares?
Tomorrow night over on the Discord, we'll be watching Little House on the Prairie and Cobra Kai. Thursday nights, we're watching The Incredible Hulk from 1978. Yeah.
Love the Hulk.
You like hearing my stories? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are great. Well, guys, next week, it's all Gen X.
It's all Gen X.
It's all Gen X all the time.
We're just gonna go from 1961 to what year do we end now?
61 to 81, baby. Gen X babies.
Gen X.
But yeah, we'll recap them. We'll recap Boomers to start, and then we'll just dive in hard to Gen X. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be fun.
Smog days. We had smog days.
Smog days.
Yeah, we had smog days. It was so smoggy that when I was in grade school, they wouldn't let us play outside.
Oh God,
that was terrible.
Damn.
Yeah.
You crazy Californians.
No. Oh, wackadoodle out here in California. We really are.
Yeah, you crazy kids.
We are.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Grendelson, for the wonderful conversation. Next week, guys, tell your friends. We are talking Gen X next week, and it's going to be a fun conversation.
And yeah, don't forget, Berkeley is still too crazy for me.
And Berkeley's still too crazy for you. I love it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.